going to talk about the differences between Aspergers and how there are similarities, but that not everybody with Aspergers is the same. We are all unique. We all have different personalities. Not every one of us are introverts. I'm an extrovert, 100%, all the way. I can go up to people on the street and start talking to them. A lot of people with Aspergers can't really do that. There's some who can. But there's just this weird misconception that people have, this idea that everyone with Asperger's is going to be the same. Yes, there are a lot of similarities. Like example, OCD, obsessive compulsive component, being obsessed and having Asperger's. Yeah, I'm a very obsessive compulsive person about things and subjects that I'm interested in. Whether it be guns or women or places that I want to go to or money or whatever. When I was a kid, it was a lot different. I couldn't be like in a room like this with these lights. It would drive me fucking crazy. I would get violent being in a room like this, being a 4 or 5-year-old kid. And I couldn't be in concerts. I couldn't be around any loud noises. I was able to go to movies and stuff, but I couldn't be in like concerts or clubs or anything like that. Any kind of loud noise would just bother me. I mean, I've outgrown it now, being an adult, but when you're a kid, a lot of Asperger's and autistic children have a lot of similarities, but they're not all the same. When they grow up, they all change. Like, one of my ex-best friends, who I'm not friends with anymore, he's got Asperger's, but me and him are completely opposites. He's antisocial. He might have schizotypical disorder because he's real paranoid. He's totally introverted, so he's the classical type of Asperger's person. Doesn't have any friends, just plays with video games and plays with his cats. I mean, I used to be that way when I was younger, but I'm not like that anymore. I like being stimulated, I like being around people. It's just the way I am. I mean, I don't know if I have something else in addition to having Asperger's. People think that I've got something else, but I got diagnosed on more than one occasion. First when I was a little kid, and then when I was like 14. But I also grew up in a dysfunctional family home. Grew up with abuse. And that does a number to somebody else, whether they have Asperger's or not. Mentally, physically, emotionally. My early obsessions as a kid was with my toys. I used to like lining them up. And I used to have an obsession with heights. Actors' heights, how tall they were. Tall, short. And I don't know why I had that obsession. I used to drive my mom crazy and other people crazy talking about it. And other students would tell me to shut up in class because I'd talk about it. So I was very open about my feelings and my discussions. And a lot of people just couldn't handle it. Even teachers would tell me to shut up. That wasn't really right of them. It was really wrong of them. I just feel that people don't understand people who have Asperger's, and they assume that they're going to be like the rest of the world, or that they're all going to be the same, all Trekkies, all this and that. But that's not true at all. Everyone has got a unique identity. I mean, for example, the guy who likes World of Warcraft, for instance, the other guy might be into biological sciences, let's say. They're going to be different people. They're not going to be the same. Sure, they might be introverts, but one might be extroverted. One might be good at making relationships with women, the other one might not be. It all depends. Or you'll have another guy who's a complete computer genius, and he's great with computers and programming. I had a friend who was a great computer programmer. He was diagnosed as Asperger's with schizoaffective disorder. He actually ended up on Megan's Law for trying to sell porn to the FBI. He was one of my close friends when we were kids. Really sucks, too. This guy was a really smart guy. And a lot of people I've known that I've gone to school with, a lot of them have gotten in trouble with the law over the years. One of the guys who used to bully me turned out to be a child molester, and he had Asperger's as well too. The school that I went to had a lot of autistic and Asperger's children. There was a school called Marcus in Concord, in California, and it's still around to this day. It's in the news, you can look it up. It's on Google. They got busted, I guess, for beating the children up a couple years back, but I've been out of school over 20 years, so way past my time. I went to school in the 80s and the 90s, and 2003 is when I graduated. I mean, I'm glad I'm not in school today, because it seems like this generation is really fucked up and messed up. The way the system is, it doesn't really help those in need. They just lump everybody in together and expect you to learn and to figure things out whether you're behind or not. There's no extra time. Back in my day, we had tutoring, we had certain special things that went on for those of us who were disabled. Like for me, the hardest class I ever took was economics and government. Fucking hated that class. I ended up failing it. I got a D, but God, it's one of the hardest classes I ever took in my life. And all the classes I ever took that I can recall. It was so fucking hard. I couldn't remember the facts or memorize things. And the teacher would tell me, or my homeroom teacher would tell me that it's because I'm obsessed with whatever I'm obsessed with. And at the time it was with the Doors and Stone Temple Pilots and Scott Weiland. And I would always talk about him all the time and talk about the band and the songs and play their albums all day long on my CD player, because back then there was no iPods or MP3 players in the early 2000s. And I would play the shit out of these CDs until they were scratched up. I had to make copies, like 5 or 6 copies of each album on tape and on CD, just to have backups so I could play the shit out of all of them. Because I loved playing those albums, listening to those songs. To this day, I still listen to those songs, even 30 years later. Because that first album came out back in 1992. It's one of my favorite albums. I mean, being obsessed like I was, I didn't have really very many friends back then. I was kind of, even though I was an extrovert, I was also an introvert at the same time, if that makes sense. I know it's an oxymoron, but I was also, because I was rejected by everybody universally. I was a universal reject, so I had to kind of stick to myself in the end. There were very few people, and the bullies, I tried to be friends with them too, even though they made fun of me nonstop. But all that bullying can do a number to somebody too, emotionally, mentally. You know, you might turn somebody into a vicious animal. That's why it's not good to bully people. Just live and let it be. That's all you can do. But don't compare other Asperger's people with other Asperger's people, because we're all different. I'm completely different than a lot of other Asperger's people. I look you in the eyes, I maintain eye contact, I could even stare you down for a long time, and I have a bad habit of doing that. My eyes don't wander like they used to when I was a kid. I like looking at people in the eyes, and looking at women especially, face to face, when I'm talking to them. I love looking into the eyes, staring into the eyes. There's just something about that gives me a sense of peace and calm. So therefore, a lot of people believe that I don't have Asperger's anymore, that I have something else wrong with me. But quite frankly, I'm still obsessive compulsive, and even though I can handle these lights now, there's certain things that still bother me to this day. I still have the same views that I did when I was a kid, so yeah. So I point that out there.